Hello there, this is Fatman in a littlecoat, and today I'm going to be going over a game that I recently played on a public server where I was in the comm chair, and I'm just going to go over a couple things that I think that I did, right or wrong, just kind of a running commentary for those of you who are interested in being playing the comm position on the team. This is the Marine side. I do want to mention that. And I do also want to mention it's, whatever personal style you have. I do recommend just, going on your own game and using the Cheats 1 code to learn a map and just become familiar with the choke points on a map before you actually jump in on a public server, just to make it easier and less stressful for yourself. But other than that, let's go ahead and play and get this started.
I'm going to go ahead and say 45 to an hour.
One thing you'll see me do quite often is not build anything right off the bat.
Right.
One of the reasons is, for one, when everybody spawns in, you don't need 2 IPs, and you don't really need an armory since everybody's at full health and full ammo. And then also, you want to send people out of your base early on as feelers as to where the aliens are at. On certain maps, you know where the alien, there's like mineshaft where you know where the aliens at, but for the most part, most spawns are random. And depending where their aliens are at, really kind of dictates as to how I'm going to go about the game. Like what upgrades I'm going to have to focus on. Like sometimes I want to do a shotgun rush, things like that.
Objective completed.
They already rushed our base?
Now, I'm not too concerned about this. You'll see that I'm not exactly focused on this. And it's primarily because they're not attacking the IP or the comm chair. And I see that there's 2 skulks. But as long as that IP and they're staying away from it, I'm not too concerned, because my Marines can spawn in. And eventually we will outspawn them unless they're being reinforced by their own team. If they were attacking the IP or the comm chair, I'd definitely be a lot more worried. I probably would have told the Marines to come back to base, and I would have gotten out of the chair myself, but that wasn't the situation, so, I wasn't in a panic mode. But one thing I did do is to prevent that from happening again, or at least easily happening again, is I started researching mines, which I do recommend doing early in a game. At this point, I'm just kind of getting a feel for the game itself, seeing what the aliens are kind of doing. My primary role, I would have to say, is to lend support to the Marines. I do put the Marines currently in elevated transfer in a single squad. I've been kind of playing around with that. It's a great tool in Natural Selection 2. It allows you to assign multiple people into a single squad in a hotkey, allowing you to break your team up and to allow them to check various objectives at the same time. Now, one thing I did was I put the observatory in the corner. Largely, I like to put an observatory where I'm going to get the most vision out of it. So usually against the wall, kind of where the aliens are attacking from. Unfortunately, being put in that position. Now I'm going to get out of the chair. I want to comment, the reason why I got out of the chair for this is because the mines were researched and the skulk wasn't on the chair yet. So I felt that I would have some time to go ahead and buy some mines and go ahead and just place them. I did place them a little too close to each other, but I basically want to prevent them from attacking the IP or the comm chair. So with observatory, I like to get the most use out of it, putting it on a wall in that corner. You'll see I do it again. And the reason why it allows to see any incoming attacks, so any Marine spawning in will have a bit of a heads up because of that placement.
Objective completed. Proceed to waypoint.
You'll see that I'm scanning ahead of the Marines. I primarily will do that throughout the game. I really encourage scanning a lot. But I like to scan ahead because that way they can see obviously any incoming attacks that are about to occur. The only time I think you should really be scanning on a Marine is when they're trying to find a hidden skulk or one that's cloaked. Also, worthy of note, around this time, around the 3 to 4 minute mark, you should definitely be aware of a possibility of a second hype going up at this point. It may not be up, but you know the aliens are going to start talking about it and the team will start being focused on it, so you have to be prepared for that.
Objective completed.
Hey, Sparkles, I'm building. Watch me. Yeah. Oh, shit. We got start.
Now when it comes to shielding, when they're on up close attacks like that, I'm going to shield obviously the person who has the lowest health. But when I'm attacking a certain location, like if I'm attacking a hive or if I'm going down a narrow corridor, I almost always shield the guy in front because he's going to get the most attack. He's going to get the most hits initially, and it gives him time for his teammates to cover his ass by providing cover fire.
Objective completed.
There's 2 skulls. They are building.
Now, one thing I learned during this game is that it's a horrible place for an observatory because the aliens can attack it very easily. So eventually, I think at this point, I just like screw it. I'm gonna put it someplace safer next time. Also, the alien's attacking my chair, so I'm not gonna try to attack the alien right away. I'm gonna try to draw him towards the mines. Unfortunately, I died in the process, but it prevented him from chomping on the chair, which I'm fine with. As long as they're not chomping on that chair or the IP, I'm not very threatened. Now, one thing I do want to know is this number right here, the 61. I don't know if you can make it out. It just turned to 41. That also shows you that I was kind of slacking on that department. Anytime your team resources hits above 30, I would say, just a kind of a general number, it generally kind of is a signal that you're not doing something that you should be doing as a commander. Meaning, you're not researching, you're not upgrading enough, because that number you shouldn't be floating on too much res throughout the game, and 30 is just my personal number for that. Because 30 you can do a lot of researching, and so you'll see that I kind of try spending it soon.
We're gonna need another extractor.
One of the first things that I'll do as a commander too is also research Armor 1. In this particular game I was a little slow on it, but Armor 1 with shotguns, which I've already researched at this point, is a great combination because the durability of Armor 1 with the power of the burst damage the shotgun gives is a very effective combination.
Objective completed.
Where's the hive? Hive is
One little thing that I've learned by playing this game as much as I have is that gorgs are a great indicator of when the second hive is going to be going up around this time. Around the 5 or 6 minute mark, the gorgs will usually be either assisting out to the second hive, or they're going to be putting things like hydras up to defend the second hive. And you can see that second hive being dropped in front of the Marines, which obviously I wouldn't recommend if you're an alien comm, but I've done it as an alien comm because drifters, can get out of your control. Once you assign a drifter to build a hive, if you're not paying attention, that drifter will build a hive no matter what. So with that, one thing I do recommend for alien commanders is that if you're going to build a hive with that drifter, pay close attention. Walk it every inch of the way, because if a hive goes up in front of a bunch of Marines, they're going to shoot at it, and they're going to take it down more likely than not at that stage. So at this point, a phase gate, the research has been already upgraded. Big fan of phase gates. Definitely something you want to have mid to late game.
Objective completed.
And also one thing I like to build is an armory, or a forward armory. It allows your Marines to heal themselves and also re-ammo themselves, which is a huge benefit. Especially since aliens will more often than not counterattack you after you've taken down a hive. Sometimes they'll hit your base, so I do also recommend making sure you have 50 energy on your observatory, or they'll attack their second hive directly, the location where their second hive was at. Now earlier I talked about shielding the person in front. You'll see me do that right there. And you can see how it becomes really beneficial because it forces the alien to it makes it much harder for them to take that guy down and move on to the next guy.
Objective completed.
Since nobody's in base and that phase gate needs building, I go ahead and get out of the chair and, you know, help it along a little bit. More often than not, I will help build a couple structures in base as a comm, just because my Marines aren't there. I usually communicate it to them. I let them know I'm stepping out of the chair. I try to med them a little beforehand, put them in a safe position before I do that.
Thank you. You're not supposed to bunch up the mines like that. You have to put them like in a corner.
So as you can see, and if you notice on the mini-map on the lower left, you'll see that various parts of the Marine base is being attacked. I'm not too threatened by that. I'm not going to send my Marines out there because they're also rep by the aliens' main hive. And so if the aliens are spread out across the map and most of my Marines are right by their main base, it makes it a lot easier to take it down because there's nobody there to defend the main base.
This is there.
Now, if it was a smaller squad of Marines or there were more aliens there, you might want to give them something to target. For example, when they have the shade there, you might tell them to take down a shade or any other critical structures, just to make it easier for them in the long run. But in this case, say, take it down with ease, and that pretty much ends the game. So hopefully you were able to see a couple of things when I played that'll help you learn from my mistakes as well, for anybody who's interested in calming. On this map in particular, it's a fairly balanced map, but there are some choke points or some key elements. You want to learn where the power nodes are on the map to give yourself every little bit of advantage to help you and your team pull out a win. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed watching. I really enjoyed making it for you, and hopefully I'll see you again on this channel or somewhere on the games and the servers, and I'll see you there on the battlefront. Thanks again.